Elk were extirpated from Pennsylvania somewhere in the late 1800s. Between 1913 and 1926, 177 were brought back in. That population sprung out to maybe in the 200 to 300 range early 1930s, and then it shrunk really, really small between 1930 and 1970-ish. And then in the 70s, we started paying more attention. And so from the 70s up till now, that population has rebounded to about 1,400 to 1,500 animals is what we have now.
Healthy populations of elk in Pennsylvania's elk zones was not by accident. It took a lot of effort by a lot of people over the years. And today, those efforts continue. The search for newly born elk is underway. This job was once done on foot. Now a drone with thermal detection is used.
Officially, it's wildlife biologist, but 95% of what I do is elk related, so I will introduce myself as the elk biologist for the state of Pennsylvania, or the Pennsylvania Game Commission. Hit this area out here. Okay. And then the other one that we know there was an elk at was Moorhead's over right in here, and you can fly to that from there. It's like, we can see it, it's right there. Okay. RMEF volunteers are showing up in about an hour, and basically we're out here just doing some preliminary scouting, trying to find an elk calf. And the name of the game is really fly around, see if you can find a lone cow, and then somewhere probably within about 200 yards, there's probably gonna be a calf there, and we're able to pick out the hot spot, fly over the top of it, and then switch over to the color imagery and zoom in and just confirm whether it's a calf or not.
Right there.
Calf or whitetail?
Calf.
So we think we have a calf up there. We're just gonna basically put the coordinates into Onyx and walk in and confirm it. Okay, that's all I needed. We're standing very close to the town of Benezet. I mean, we're in Benezet Township. Arguably the center of our elk culture, you know, I mean, they're gonna claim for sure that they're the elk capital of Pennsylvania, but definitely the tourism center of the state.
But not too long ago, an elk population in Pennsylvania would have been unsustainable.
Pennsylvania has a long history of surface mines, doing it when there wasn't any kind of required reclamation.
I call them moonscapes. They were just nothing but sandstone, rock, boulder fields, and now it's lush green, you know, vegetation for all kinds of wildlife to enjoy.
And that makes wonderful elk habitat.
And today begins the annual Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation Rendezvous, being held at the Winslow Hill viewing area.
RMEF Rendezvous is typically one of the highlights of the year. So I count about 70, 75 people. We have two calves, so we are gonna split the group. We enjoy bringing people out, getting them out to see, one, the habitat, but then two, also the animals, right? And this is a unique opportunity where we can get people involved. We have an elk calf bedded down in the grass here. Again, we're just gonna get a big circle surrounding the calf, and then we kind of suck the air out of that circle and bring it in. Just in case it does pop up and run, somebody will be able to grab it. That's right here. Yeah, good job, bud. The best thing I can say is the same way that we kind of weigh and measure human babies, we're essentially doing that for elk as well. So it's a sample size into the health of the newborn population. You see all this fleshy stuff in here? Same thing on this one. Not bright white, except like that would be an example of what they would look like at birth, right? This little dew claw back here. Newborn would be that bright white, but already starting to harden it up, but you can still see some of this fleshy material in there. Same thing on the front hooves, right? A little bit hardened in the back. Kind of soft up in the tip though. So probably gonna say like 3 days old. Realize it's a little bit subjective and you know, it's a guesstimate, but it's close enough that that's plenty accurate. 2020 to 2023, we did do a calf survival study where we collared about 134 calves over the course of those 3 years. You're okay, you're okay, you're okay. In general, calf population is doing well. Ended up with 63% survival, which is pretty good compared to Western states. Let's call it 18.9, you're good. So 18.9 kilograms, 2.2 pounds. Who's good with the math? It was a little bit lower than what we had seen here in Pennsylvania in the past, but I know a lot of the western states are less than 50%.
Okay.
For the volunteers, this moment culminates years of hard work and dedication.
The looks on people's faces, and I've seen a lot of people see a lot of elk over decades now, it is more impactful and more of an awe-inspiring moment for our folks to see an elk calf up close than it is a bugling bull in September. I know, because I've seen it both many times.
Part two of what we get to do with Volunteer Rendezvous is to bring folks out and see some of the work that we've been doing, whether that's habitat projects or land acquisition.
The first stop is State Game Lands 321, a project that the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation was instrumental in developing.
18 elk released here. That small group of elk really is what has expanded to make up the eastern part of our current elk population. I love Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation and the stuff that we've been able to do together as partners. This is one of my favorite projects.
The scope of the projects taken place in Pennsylvania's elk zone over the years is not lost on Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation volunteers.
I used to hike this particular area. It was just stone and mining area, and now it's nice to see the habitat for the elk.
Here's another different way that we made things happen in Pennsylvania that benefited wildlife.
Brought the elk back to the area.
Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation is probably the conservation organization that does the most for wildlife in Pennsylvania.
And it's great just to see it set aside for future generations. As a father of 3 kids, I know that that land is going to be there for my kids to experience one day.
To date in Pennsylvania, we've spent nearly $30 million on nearly 600 projects, largely focused here on Pennsylvania Elk Range, but also throughout the Commonwealth to accomplish the Elk Foundation's mission.
Restoring elk habitat is critical, but adding new acres to that habitat is the key to expanding elk and other wildlife populations. The highlight of this rendezvous is the latest addition to State Game Lands, the Getz Summit.
Today, we got to see the Getz Summit land acquisition brought to us in part because of the work of the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. Phase 1 is 649 acres that is now officially part of the Pennsylvania Game Lands system. The second phase, which is about 1,700 acres, bringing the total project to 2,300 acres. So this acquisition, the Getz Summit property, is being added onto Game Land 14. Game Land 14 is right now just shy of 15,000 acres, and adding another 2,300 acres is going to really bump that number.
The property is within 20 miles of more than 30 earlier Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation land conservation and habitat stewardship projects.
To be part of the Elk Foundation mission, it's a double inspiration. One, the volunteer component that we have and the donors and the people who are passionate about making it happen, and then sitting up here on State Game Lands 311 where it did happen. Our organization was started 4 decades ago. Many of our volunteers have been around here in Pennsylvania for almost that long.
Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation has been crucial in elk management in Pennsylvania. I've often said that we would not have elk without RMEF.
We've accomplished so much here in Pennsylvania. There's certainly more to do, but we've come a long way.